Welcome to Understand Your Mind. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some of the kindest people are also the most exhausted ones? They are always available, always understanding, always saying yes. And yet, inside, they feel drained, tense, and quietly frustrated. This is not a coincidence. Many people believe that being nice means being good, that avoiding conflict is a sign of emotional maturity, that putting others first is the right thing to do. But what if that constant kindness is not kindness at all? What if it is fear disguised as goodness? Fear of disappointing, fear of rejection, fear of being seen as selfish. So people adapt, they soften their words, they silence their needs, they stay quiet when something feels wrong. From the outside, they look calm and generous. From the inside, they feel pressure. Over time, this pressure doesn't disappear. It settles in the body, in the mind, in the way decisions are made. And slowly, without realizing it, being nice starts to cost more than it gives. Many people don't realize when this pattern begins. It usually doesn't start in adulthood. It starts much earlier. As children, we learn very quickly what is accepted and what creates tension. When we are calm, helpful, and agreeable, we receive approval, smiles, affection, praise. When we express anger, discomfort, or disagreement, the atmosphere changes, so the mind makes a simple connection. Approval equals safety. Over time, this association becomes automatic. The brain learns that pleasing others reduces risk. This is not a conscious choice. It is a survival strategy. The nervous system adapts to avoid rejection, conflict, or emotional distance. And as adults, many people continue responding to the world with the same internal logic. They sense discomfort and immediately try to neutralize it. They feel tension and rush to restore harmony. Not because they want to manipulate, not because they lack values, but because their system learned that being nice keeps them safe. The problem is that what once protected you can later limit you, because the same mechanism that helped you adapt as a child can become a source of tension as an adult. The brain does not automatically update these patterns. It repeats what once worked. So every time a situation feels emotionally uncertain, the response is the same. Be agreeable, be flexible, be nice. But adult life requires something different. It requires discernment. It requires boundaries. It requires the ability to tolerate discomfort without immediately trying to fix it. When someone avoids conflict at all costs, they often confuse peace with suppression. They believe that harmony means the absence of tension, when in reality, healthy relationships can hold disagreement. Unexpressed needs do not disappear, they accumulate, and over time, what is not said begins to shape behavior in subtle ways. Tone changes, energy shifts, motivation decreases. The person may still appear kind, but internally, something feels off. Over time, this internal tension often shows up as confusion. People don't always feel angry. They feel tired, unmotivated, disconnected from themselves. They may start questioning their reactions. Why do I feel irritated for no clear reason? Why do small things affect me so much? What is happening is not a lack of gratitude or a personality flaw. It is the result of consistently ignoring inner signals. Emotions are information. They signal limits, needs, and values. When those signals are repeatedly silenced, the mind has no choice but to express them indirectly, through fatigue, through tension in the body, through emotional distance. At this point, many people double down on being nice. They try harder, they give more, they become even more understanding. But the more they abandon themselves, the less connected they feel. And slowly, the sense of identity becomes blurred. This is where many people begin to feel a quiet resentment, not always toward others, but toward themselves. They ask themselves why they keep ending up in the same situations. why they feel taken for granted, why they give so much and receive so little. What they don't see yet is that the pattern is not about generosity. It is about fear-driven behavior. When kindness is used to avoid discomfort, it loses its freedom. Real kindness comes from choice, not from obligation, not from fear of losing connection. When someone cannot say no, their yes slowly loses meaning. And when boundaries are missing, relationships stop being spaces of mutual respect and start becoming places of emotional imbalance. The person keeps adapting, hoping things will change, without realizing that nothing changes until the pattern does. Over time, this imbalance affects how a person sees themselves. They may begin to doubt their own worth. They wonder if being loved requires constant effort. The idea slowly settles in. If I stop giving, I might lose connection. So they keep giving. They overextend. They ignore the signs of exhaustion. What is rarely understood is that boundaries are not walls. They are points of clarity. Boundaries tell others where you end and where they begin. Without them, relationships become unclear, roles blur, expectations grow unspoken, and the more unclear things become, the more pressure builds inside. At this stage, many people feel trapped. They don't want to hurt anyone, but they are already hurting themselves. At some point, the body begins to speak louder than the mind. Sleep becomes lighter. The chest feels tight. Small decisions feel overwhelming. This is not weakness. It is feedback. The nervous system is signaling that something is out of balance. When a person constantly ignores their own limits, the body takes on the role of messenger. Stress hormones stay active longer than they should. The system remains on alert, even in moments that should feel safe. Many people misinterpret this state. They think they are anxious by nature, that they are too sensitive, that something is wrong with them. But often, what they are experiencing is the cost of chronic self-suppression. A life lived without clear boundaries keeps the system in constant tension. What keeps this pattern alive is not lack of intelligence. It is conditioning. The brain is doing exactly what it learned to do. It learned that discomfort is dangerous, that disagreement threatens connection, that saying no leads to distance. So it reacts quickly before reflection has time to appear. This reaction feels automatic, almost invisible. The person may not even notice the moment they override themselves. It happens in seconds. A thought appears. This might upset them. And the body responds immediately. Tightness, urgency, compliance. By the time awareness arrives, the decision has already been made. Over time, this automatic response becomes identity. People start describing themselves as someone who always puts others first. They take pride in being reliable, in being easy to deal with, in not causing problems. But there is a subtle shift that happens here. When a role becomes fixed, the person stops checking whether it still fits. They act according to who they think they should be, not according to what they feel or need. Saying yes becomes part of who they are. Saying no feels like a betrayal of that image. And slowly, the space between the inner self and the outer behavior grows wider. This internal distance often creates a sense of emptiness. Not dramatic, not obvious, just a quiet feeling that something is missing. People may function well on the outside. They work, they care for others, they meet expectations. But inside, they feel disconnected from their own desires. They struggle to answer simple questions like, what do I actually want? What do I need right now? Because when someone spends years prioritizing others, they lose practice listening to themselves. Their inner voice becomes faint, unfamiliar. And when that voice is rarely consulted, choices are made based on habit, not alignment. At this point, many people start feeling stuck. They sense that something needs to change, but they don't know what. They may try to fix the feeling externally, working harder, being more helpful, improving themselves even more. But the discomfort doesn't go away. Because the issue is not effort, it is direction. No amount of giving will create balance if the person keeps moving away from themselves. Change does not begin with doing more. It begins with noticing. Noticing tension, noticing resentment, noticing the moments where the body tightens before the mind even has time to think. These moments are not failures. They are signals. Awareness changes the process. Not immediately, but gradually. When a person starts noticing these internal reactions, a small pause appears. That pause is important. It is the space between impulse and response, between the urge to please and the possibility of choice. In that space, something new can happen. The person may still feel the discomfort. The tension does not disappear, but now it is seen. And when something is seen, it no longer controls in the same way. This is not about becoming cold or selfish. It is about becoming honest. Honest with the body, honest with emotions, honest with limits. This honesty can feel uncomfortable at first, especially for people who are used to adapting. Saying no may create guilt. Expressing a need may feel selfish. Allowing someone else to feel disappointed can trigger anxiety. These reactions are normal. They are not signs that something is wrong. They are signs that the system is learning something new. The nervous system needs time to understand that boundaries do not mean rejection, that disagreement does not mean abandonment. At first, the body may react as if danger is present, even when there isn't any. The heart beats faster. The stomach tightens. The urge to fix things returns. But slowly, with repetition, the system begins to recalibrate. With time, a subtle shift begins to happen. The discomfort lasts a little less. The urgency softens. The person starts realizing that nothing terrible happens when they respect their limits. Some people may not like it. Some situations may feel awkward, but connection does not disappear. And in some cases, relationships actually become clearer. Because when boundaries are present, expectations are no longer guessed. They are understood. The person begins to feel more grounded, more present, less divided inside. This is not about becoming rigid. It is about becoming aligned. As this alignment grows, something else becomes clearer. Kindness begins to feel different. It is no longer automatic. It is intentional. The person chooses when to give, chooses when to step back, chooses when to speak, and when to stay silent. There is less resentment because giving is no longer forced. There is more presence because energy is not constantly leaking. This kind of kindness feels lighter, more honest, more sustainable. It does not come from fear. It comes from self-respect. The shift also changes how a person relates to others. They no longer feel responsible for everyone's emotions. They understand that discomfort is part of human interaction, that not every feeling needs to be fixed. That disagreement does not equal harm. This creates a new kind of calm, not the calm of avoiding conflict, but the calm of inner stability. The person starts responding instead of reacting, listening without absorbing, caring without disappearing. Relationships begin to feel more balanced, more reciprocal, more real. There is also a change in how the person experiences guilt. It doesn't disappear, but it loses authority. Guilt is no longer a command. It becomes information. The person notices it, acknowledges it, but doesn't automatically obey it. They begin to ask different questions. Is this guilt coming from my values or from an old fear of disappointing others? This distinction matters because values guide behavior with clarity. Fear drives behavior with urgency. When actions are guided by values, there is a sense of integrity, even when decisions are difficult. As this clarity develops, decisions start to feel different. They are not always easier, but they feel cleaner. There is less inner debate, less self-justification, less need to explain. The person may still care deeply, but they are no longer constantly negotiating with themselves. They recognize that saying no to one thing is often saying yes to something else, to rest, to honesty, to self-respect. This understanding reduces inner conflict. Energy becomes more available. Attention becomes more focused, and life begins to feel less like constant effort and more like conscious participation. This does not mean that relationships become effortless. It means they become more honest. Some connections may change, some dynamics may shift. Not everyone will be comfortable with the new balance, but what remains tends to be more genuine. The person begins to notice who respects their limits and who only felt comfortable when there were none. This awareness can feel sobering, sometimes painful, but it is also clarifying, because relationships that require self-erasure are not sustainable. At this stage, many people realize something important. They are not becoming less kind, they are becoming more selective. They stop giving automatically and start giving intentionally. This selectivity is not selfishness, it is discernment. It allows kindness to flow where it is welcomed and respected, not where it is expected or demanded. As a result, interactions feel more balanced. There is less emotional exhaustion, less hidden tension. Kindness no longer feels like a duty. It feels like a choice. This new way of relating also changes how time is experienced. There is less rushing, less pressure to respond immediately. The person feels more permission to pause, to think, to check in with themselves before answering. This pause creates space for intention. Instead of reacting to expectations, they respond from clarity. Life feels less reactive and more deliberate. Moments are no longer filled with constant internal negotiation. There is a growing sense of being present rather than performing. With this presence, confidence begins to rebuild. Not the loud kind, not the performative kind. A quiet confidence, the kind that comes from knowing where you stand. The person no longer needs constant validation to feel secure in their choices. They trust their internal signals more. They rely less on external approval. This doesn't make them inflexible, it makes them steady. They can adapt without losing themselves. They can care without overextending. And slowly, self-trust replaces self-doubt. As self-trust grows, the person becomes more attuned to their inner rhythm. They notice when they need rest, when they need space, when they need connection. They stop pushing themselves just to meet expectations. Instead, they begin to honor their capacity, their limits, their timing. This attunement brings a sense of balance, less urgency, less inner pressure. Life starts to move at a pace that feels sustainable. This does not mean life becomes free of challenges. It means challenges are faced differently. Instead of shrinking, the person stays present. Instead of over-explaining, they speak clearly. Instead of apologizing for existing, they take up their space. This shift may feel unfamiliar at first, but it brings a sense of dignity. The person begins to experience themselves not as someone who adapts to everything, but as someone who participates. With this participation comes responsibility. Not responsibility for others' emotions, but responsibility for one's own choices. The person understands that clarity may disappoint, but confusion hurts more. They accept that being honest may create temporary discomfort, but long-term self-betrayal is far more damaging. So they begin to choose clarity even when it feels uncomfortable, not to control others, but to stay aligned with themselves. As this clarity becomes part of daily life, the person starts noticing a deeper sense of relief. There is less internal conflict, less second-guessing, less emotional noise. They no longer replay conversations endlessly, wondering if they said too much or not enough. Decisions feel settled, even when they are not perfect. This relief does not come from control. It comes from congruence, from acting in a way that matches what is felt inside. This congruence strengthens self-respect, not in an inflated way, but in a grounded one. The person no longer needs to prove their worth through constant availability. They begin to feel valuable without having to earn it. This changes how they move through the world. There is less urgency to be liked, less fear of being misunderstood. They understand that being respected matters more than being approved. With this understanding, fear slowly loses its grip. Not all at once, but steadily. Fear no longer dictates every decision. It becomes one signal among others, not the loudest one. The person learns that discomfort can be tolerated. That silence does not always mean rejection. That distance does not always mean loss. This realization brings emotional freedom. Not freedom from feeling, but freedom from being ruled by fear. At this point, kindness has a different foundation. It is no longer a strategy. It is an expression. The person gives because they want to, not because they are afraid not to. They help without losing themselves. They care without overextending. They connect without disappearing. Kindness becomes steady, not exhausting. And relationships begin to reflect this change, becoming less about roles and more about presence. What once felt like a personality trait is now understood as a pattern, and patterns can change. The person no longer defines themselves by how much they give, but by how aligned they feel. They recognize that being a good person does not require self-sacrifice, that caring for others does not mean neglecting oneself. This understanding brings a sense of maturity, not moral superiority, but emotional depth. From this place, life feels more honest, less performed, less forced. The person no longer needs to be constantly agreeable to feel worthy of connection. They understand that true connection does not require self-erasure. It requires presence, clarity, and the courage to be seen as one truly is. This is not a dramatic transformation. It is a quiet one, but it changes everything. Being kind does not mean being invisible. Being good does not mean being silent. Real kindness includes yourself. It listens to others without abandoning your own voice. It gives without erasing your limits. When kindness is guided by awareness, it becomes something steady and alive. Not a habit driven by fear, but a choice rooted in self-respect. And from that place, being kind no longer hurts. It strengthens. If this video resonated with you, if something I shared touched a part of you, I'd like to ask you something. Subscribe to the channel, not because I need the numbers, but because you may need these reminders to support you in your daily life. And if you feel like sharing this video, it may help someone else who is going through the same thing. I would also love it if you left a comment to let me know whether this video helped you. I'm here, through this content, to remind you that you are not alone on this path. I'll see you in the next video.